In this program, you will learn the use of for loop in finding out the factorial of a number. Of course, the number will be an integer. So, let us go to the program. See here, we can write down the one statement about the program, which is to find the factorial of a given number, which is a non-executable statement since it is written within this slash and star, starting with slash and star and it ends with slash and star. Then include studio standard input output dot header file for the input output functions. Include console input output dot header file to get the output in the monitor of the program, and the main program will start from here with main function main, then the curly bracket starts. So, the main program will be written within this starting curly bracket and the final curly bracket. Now, we will define the integer n and factorial and I. These three are integer variables, and fact and I, these three are integer variables. So, we are defining the variables with int function. Then you can see here fact equal to 1. So, the initial value of FACT fact equal to 1 we are taking, that means the factorial value will be stored in the variable fact FACT, which is an integer variable, and n will be taken for taking the value how many for what value we want to find out the factorial, and I is the counter or the increment function. So, now the one statement for the user of the program, printf enter an integer value. So, it will be displayed as it is to get the integer value from the input terminal, that is the keyboard. With a scanf input function, will take the value from the keyboard, %d for the integer format statement, integer value, the format function, then %n. The %n will take the value from the keyboard. Now, the for loop will start from this for I equal to 1 semicolon I is less than equal to n semicolon I plus plus. That means the value of the counter or the I value will start from 1 up to the number n, for which we want to find out the factorial, and every time the increment value will be 1. Say if I starts from 1, in the first iteration value of I will be 1, in the second iteration the value of I will be 2, in the third, after the third iteration the value of I will be 3, and so on, and it will go up to n. Say we want to find out the value of the factorial of 5, then the n value will go up to I value will go up to n, that is 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. In the next statement we are writing fact, the factorial variable, fact variable, which is taken as initial value as 1, fact equal to fact into I, that means 1 into the initial value of I is 1, so 1 into 1. So, 1 1 is 1 in the factorial FACT fact variable, the value will be stored. Let us see, I have written the statement, how the increment is done after each iteration. So, we are taking the value of n as 5, then in the initially the fact value is equal to 1. Now, in the first iteration the value of I is 1, so fact value is 1, initial value of I fact 1 multiplied by the value of I as 1, 1 1 is 1. Now, the value of fact becomes 1, it will remain 1 because if we multiply 1 by 1 the value will remain 1 only. The second iteration the value of I is 2, the original value before the second iteration, in the first iteration the value of fact is 1, so 1 value is written here multiplied by new value of I, which is 2. So, 1 into 2 equal to 2. Now the new value of fact is 2. Then the third iteration comes. In the third iteration, the value of I will become 3. So previous value of fact is 2, 2 into I, that is 2 into 3 equal to 6. Now after the third iteration, the value of fact becomes 6. Again it will go up to the fourth iteration, because the iteration will go up to 5. The maximum value of n is 5. Now the previous value of fact is 6 into multiplied by the new value of I is now 4, because it is increasing from 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So 6 4s are 24. Then comes the fifth iteration. In the fifth iteration, the previous value of fact is 24, which is here 24, multiplied by the new value of I is 5. So the 24 multiplied by 5 is 120. Now the next iteration will not come, because the maximum value of n has been reached, which is the value 5. Because as I mentioned, the value, let us in examples we have taken the value of n is 5, the maximum value is 5. We want to find out the factorial of 5. So this, which is equal to 120. Actually factorial 5 is equal to 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1, or you can say factorial 5 is equal to 1 into 2 into 3 into 4 into 5. So finally the value of fact becomes 120, and this 120 will be displayed in this printf function, output function printf. The factorial of percentage d is percentage d. That means percentage d is the first value n, and the fact that 120 is stored, the 120 will be displayed in place of n, 5 will be displayed in place of fact, 120 will be displayed. So our output will be the factorial of 5 is 120, and get ch, which will terminate the program. We will see in the dev C++ terminal how to find out the value of a factorial. Now we have opened the dev C++ terminal, where already the program has been written and compilation is also done. So we can run the program. You already know how to execute and run a program. So here the same program I have written here, which is shown in text form, that is written in this dev C++ terminal. Now we'll run it. So we'll go to execute, then run. It is asking integer, enter in integer value. So as we know that we can find out the factorial of an integer only. Suppose I have told you that as 5 is the number for which we want to find out the factorial. So press the enter. The answer is the factorial of 5 is 120. Again you can go for another example. Run. Suppose enter in integer value. Suppose we are giving 100 and press the enter. Why it is coming factorial 100 is 0? Because the number we have defined as int only, but we should define the number as long integer, then only the value of factorial of 100 will be displayed. Because it is a very long number, it is not displayed. We'll take a little smaller number, enter in integer value, say suppose 10. So the factorial of 10 is 3628800. So it is not a very small number, it is a very large number. So since the factorial of 100 is a very long number, so we have to define accordingly, because it needs a long integer.